Welcome back to the Smite Pro League. Again, we're taking a look at North America today. Finch here, and I have my twin, apparently, Agro, right here with me.
Hey, it's me. Nice outfit, by the way.
I like it. I picked it out first.
Really? Did you? I was on the Smite Global Series broadcast this morning.
Oh, sure. I was already dressed, apparently. Let's go to the North American standings, because I want to take a look and see how all these teams are shaking out for some of the games we saw earlier today. And Spacestation and CLG continue to sit up at the top of the standings.
Now, it's Spacestation versus Splyce is our matchup here, and it looks like Spacestation's at the top, Splyce at the bottom. Should be a blowout, right? But I don't really think it's that cut and dry. Splyce, despite their record, has looked pretty good during their games here in Season 5, and Spacestation hasn't found their cleanest victories at times. They've had, not struggles, I'll say, but haven't looked as dominant as their record might reflect a lot of the time. So I really don't think you can count Splyce out in this matchup at all.
Yeah, not just that, but this Splyce team, I mean, it is full of talent, really. It's full of players that have been around forever, and I'm not surprised at all that this Splyce team is looking as close as they are in these games so far. They're full of superstars.
Splyce has struggled to find their footing. Now, Aurora and the boys do have a nice play style, and I like that they've embraced it. They're not going too crazy, but they definitely know their identity. They want to fight early, they want to fight often, and this is how they found a win early in one of the matches this week. Not a W per se, but still, look at what they're doing. This team needs to hit the VODs and hit the books, and maybe they'll hit the wins.
And you heard it there in that video. They like to fight early, and they like to fight often. This is a squad of brawlers. Aurora, Cycle, and Spendivios, the best. They love to fight.
And they have some compositions that they've been running pretty consistently so far here in Season 5. The big one, Spacestation, has got to have done their homework. Take away the Giannis from the best. That has been the top pick for Splyce so far here in Season 5, and I feel like that's really what's dictated so much of what Splyce has had in terms of success. I mean, Cynos Fenrir that pairs along with it is very, very good as well. Best is going to go to the Nuwa, the stuff that the other gods that he likes. That's fine. Keep him off the Giannis. That's the top pick for Splyce right now.
So try and make sure that the best doesn't get to look so good in that mid lane on a pick that we know that he plays very well. But in particular, you want to make sure that you're trying to slow down Divios. I want to remind y'all, he is going to be that POV cam for y'all, so check those out in the links right below the video if you want to watch along with him. And why wouldn't you? In lane in particular, it seems like this guy can bully anyone.
Divios has returned to form and hasn't missed a step. It doesn't even look like this guy took some time away from the competitive scene. I mean, everyone knows this dude grinds the game. I mean, it doesn't matter what hour of the day it is, what day of the week it is. Divios is logged on, has probably been in jungle practice for 95 minutes, and then he's going to go and play a bunch of ranked games and then go right back into jungle practice. The dude's a beast. He knows the ins and outs of the game at a very core level, but it's not just the numbers with him. He understands how the numbers actually impact the map, and that's the reason why he's looked so good here in Season 5.
And you're going to need that level of understanding if you're going up against opponents like Spacestation Gaming, which it just so happens that Divios is here, right? I mean, this Spacestation roster, I mean, what can we say? I mean, they're a fan favorite for a reason.
They're beasts. I mean, Barrett, Jeff, already really, really good. Then you add in Baskin, who for my money is the best player in North America right now.
Yeah.
Then Anister's return to the jungle. And Aquarius is no slouch in that solo lane either. He's looked pretty good during his time in Season 5.
Yeah, not only is the Spacestation Gaming roster stacked, but 3 of those members were one-time world champions. This Spacestation roster from top to bottom looks strong.
A lot of expectations for this new Spacestation Gaming roster. First of all, you got the hometown heroes, Barracuda and Jeff Hindla. Everybody's going to love them no matter what. Anister's back in the jungle, and that's why I'm loving them. But really, it's all about the wins. These guys have been performing like you expect them to. Spacestation Gaming, blasting off.
Spacestation have been performing like you expect them to, indeed. And a lot of that, despite being such a jungle-heavy meta, is coming through Baskin in that mid lane. I mean, he's looked like a monster so far.
He really has, and the way that he works so well with Anister already. I mean, these guys were teammates before. It was jungle solo, now it's jungle mid. But I really feel like these guys really haven't lost a step in terms of their teamwork. And Baskin's mechanics, unquestionable. The dude's just a mechanical machine. Anister still seems to be going through some growing pains, needs to work on his mechanics and getting into the right spots, but I've got no doubt that that's going to happen, and it's going to happen pretty quickly. And when it does, watch out, because the Spacestation that you think is good right now, they're only getting better.
And in games where you think, oh, well, Spacestation's actually kind of struggling a little bit, if you could just take Baskin's KDA and isolation and his damage numbers and all his relevant stats, there's no way you'd believe Spacestation could be losing the way that Baskin's playing. So he's that kind of player that no matter what, he's going to be bringing it for you, and he's going to need to bring it here as we are ready to bring up the picks and bans for Game 1, Space Station going up against Splyce.
Space Station in that first pick slot, so they have the opportunity to take the Giannis away without banning it. I mean, that's certainly something that Baskin has proven that he can play at a pretty high level. I mean, think back to his World Championship performance against Energy in the quarterfinals where he almost single-handedly wins the game on the Giannis. So this opens up the picks and bans a little bit more for Space Station.
Already, though, Nemesis is being taken away. That's not too surprising. But Gab being banned, I'll admit he's a priority support, but we don't always see a ban used on him.
It's Jeff Hindla, man. The guy just plays Gab to a T. That's everything that Gab is as a support, Jeff Hindla does very well. Peels for his teammates, is in the right spot, rotates very, very quickly, and then could be that initiator as well. It just pairs so perfectly with what Space Station likes to have Jeff Hindla do that it makes sense to me for the ban.
The ban, though, did come out onto the Giannis, so electing not to pick that one for themselves because it means they can pick Daji for Andenster and take that one into the jungle, and that's very likely what they're going to be doing as the Uller was banned away by Splyce.
Now, that's one of the picks that Andenster has looked the most comfortable on so far here in this short season, so I love this first selection. A lot of teams not first picking Daji anymore, kind of waiting it out. A couple other assassins have kind of taken her over as far as priority picks, but when your name's Andenster and you can do the things that Andy's done with this character, I've got no problem with that first pick.
That does mean, though, that Camazotz and Achilles can be selected by Splyce. And if you want to talk about not just burst and sustain, but flex, that's what the Splyce 2 selections do. I mean, Camazotz and Achilles, we've seen Camazotz ADC, Achilles solo. I mean, you really don't know where that's going.
No, you don't. But and if there's a guy who I think would take a new character, it's Divios. I mean, Divios, like I said, puts in the hours with every new character, especially those, not just the ones, but especially the ones that you can actually play in that solo lane. I wonder if that Camazotz is going to be for Sino in Achilles solo lane, but even if you're Space Station, you probably don't know exactly where those two are going.
Athena, Thoth going to be the next selections for Space Station. Going to be the support and mid, respectively. And talk about just inbuilt synergy. I mean, Athena taunts you, and then Final Judgment smacks you. That sounds like a combo you don't want to be a part of.
I mean, as true as my spiel was about Jeff Hindla and Geb, the same can be said for Jeff Hindla and Athena. I mean, the guy is just a beast on Athena. He's been playing it since she came out and has always been one of the premier Athena players in the league. And then you set up, as you mentioned, for a guy like Baskin on a god like Thoth. Yikes.
Yeah, there's a lot of time where Baskin's getting no setup and looks like he knows exactly where everyone is all the time. So imagine with that Athena taunt, it's only going to get worse. But in response, Nuwa going to be selected, likely going to be going for best, even though we have seen some Nuwa ADC. And you want to talk about how well those abilities are when they hit, you can't miss the Nuwa ult. That's hitting every time.
You sure can. Aegis might save you a little bit, but when it comes to the late game, that Nuwa is going to be very hard to deal with. The problem that I'm having already with Splyce's draft is that they have to get there. And the Artio kind of mitigates that a little bit, brings some early pressure, brings some early team fight ability. But this Odin pick is great. Locks down that Artio very, very well. Now, that really tells me that it's going to be up to Aquarius on his rotations, because I doubt that Splyce is going to want to put that Artio in the solo lane up against that Odin for Aquarius, where I'm expecting that to go. Though it could be Jeff Hindla on the Odin and Aquarius on the Athena. I wouldn't put it past Space Station to try something a little bit weird like that to make sure that Odin is into his best matchup, which is the Artio.
It is going to be the Robin selection that comes in, so still some question marks remaining as the Achilles, Camazotz, Artio, and Robin all locked in, and there's a lot of flexibility on where these picks all can go. But we've seen just how strong Robin can be in the jungle. Certainly no problem with putting that one there.
No, I think that you can flex a lot of what Splyce's roster wants to do. The only thing that I would say is keep Artio as far away from Odin as possible.
Well, those are going to be the two teams going into Game 1, but who's going to come out to the victor? Well, let's get over to the casters to find out.
Splyce and Space Station Gaming. In the beginning of the season, you might not have thought that this one was going to be a good matchup. Obviously, Space Station Gaming towards the top of the rosters. Splyce, not really number one, but I've really liked what I've been able to see out of them so far.
Not really number one, but I wouldn't really pin them for last place either, which they are currently sitting at. They've taken a couple of games off of some high-end teams, and now it's all about trying to finalize everything and close out with a full set.
Let us know in Mixer Chat who you think is going to take this one, whether it's Barracuda and the Hometown Heroes, or across the way, it's Aurora and his little band of misfits that I really like to root for.
Player cam's on Barra again, right?
Probably.
It's the Barra factor. You just can't compete. But speaking of which, Splyce trying to take a chunk out of Barracuda's plot armor here, and whether or not they're going to find themselves successful, this is a really interesting draft, I think, that Splyce has opted for here. I love the concept behind the burst and the dive between Nuwa, Camazotz, and Achilles, but the single target is the main concern I have here, really, for Splyce, because If you don't find out the kill, homie, your whole team's probably dead.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a big deal. Divio's playing the Achilles over there in the solo lane. Cynoshore will be playing in the jungle on the Ravana. So we will see Achilles in a different position. We've seen him in the solo lane so far. And here, we heard the desk talking about, Aquarius is going to pick up the Odin, but he won't be against the Artio, which is kind of what you were rooting for. He's going to be going head-to-head against a new character.
This does feel like a potential last-minute swap, though, between Splyce, not really considering what Odin could offer if Aquarius were to opt for it. And I think that this kind of fits Aquarius' build, though, really well. In the past, we saw him kind of fall towards that chalk whenever he wanted just a safe sustain in the lane, being able to efficiently clear out his waves. And I think that this is a little bit of the same thought process with the Odin pickup. Sure, you're probably not going to get a massive lead against the Achilles, but you won't really be in a position to get executed super easily either.
And really, Aquarius has always been that character for me, that player that winds up being the sort of the missing piece, the Swiss Army knife of the team, if you will. And he usually comes in playing whatever it is that the squad really needs.
Take a look at those results, though. Mixer chat, you guys really are some Space Station fanboys.
I mean, I told you, the Barracuda effect, right?
It's always going to be a factor to consider. Speaking of Aurora and Cyclone Spin, getting this nice little invade off in Camazotz ADC. Actually, by the way, we've already seen this debut once before.
Yeah, Vote played it over there on Rival, and this is the Cyclone Spin I've kind of been waiting for. Cyclone played over there in the solo lane in a meta where you could kind of play whatever you wanted. And here in the Hunter role, it's kind of the same world.
I'm just amazed that it took teams this long to play Camazotz ADC when he was beyond viable, I think, in Season 4 even.
Yeah.
If not better in Season 4 because of how much farm that ADC role was actually able to acquire, but making sure to not let that invade go unreturned. Cyno with a nice little blink root onto Baskin. Baskin trying to dash away into freedom, but he's not out just yet.
Oh, he won't get rooted from the Artio. Nice cancel out there. Space Station still trying to escape, but it's Jeff Hindla giving his life for the greater good. First blood goes to Aurora, the support on Splyce.
Jeff, though, making sure to bail out Baskin in a tough situation. Barracuda could be next, but no. Just going to be the Aegis for now. A nice engage, though, out of Cyclone Spin. Very aggressive as well, but that's just what you expect to see from the Camazotz, even opting for the Warrior's Blessing, knowing full well that he wanted to just jump on the bear every chance possible.
I love the Warrior's Blessing. I've actually seen players, and I've been thinking about trying this in different roles just because of the innate sustain it gives you. If you're ever in trouble, you can get some mana and health back by just throwing something at the opposition. Really interesting to see that one. But over here on the solo lane, interesting to see Odin losing a matchup.
I'm not all that surprised by it. Achilles, especially with somebody like a Divios piloting him. Aquarius, at times, tends to be a little bit more passive whenever he's not super familiar with his laning matchup, I think. And Divios is a hard wildcard factor, I think, for a lot of solo laners in North America. You've seen him in the past, and you're probably very familiar with what he likes to do. For instance, a lot of hyper-aggression, which is why we tend to see those unconventional picks like Fenrir, Hades, even the Shing 10. I think Divios still plays incredibly aggressive. So now that he's got Achilles, a god that does plenty of damage at the start, this is an ideal situation for him to be in. He's going to probably keep looking to try and bully Aquarius off cooldown. And as long as he does, that's going to force Anister to just try and commit to a decision. Do I want to help out, or which sideline should I help out first?
I mean, looking at Anister right now, I mean, it looks like he probably should pay attention to the left side. Jeff was the first one to fall. But as far as the rest of the map is concerned, Anister pretty much has wherever he wants to go. Right now, Splyce ahead by 1,000 gold. Only half of that from the first blood bounty.
I will say, though, the only real target Anister has from level 5 onward is going to be punishing those who use their ultimates, because all of Splyce has those CC immune ultimates outside of the Artio, and this is why we see Anister choosing to go in now. Beautiful Crippleville trying to help make sure that he can get away, and Cyclone Spin will make it out.
What a surprise. After the stun, Anister decides to walk away. I really thought that was a dead Camazotz, like 20 times to 10.
The sprint, though. I think the sprint was just enough to create spacing so that Anister couldn't follow up as easy as he would have wanted to, and staying any longer might have resulted in a potential counter gank from Cyno, and chasing further than halfway up the lane right now is no can do for Barracuda.
Yeah, and plus at the time, Andy was only level 4, so if he chases that kill and he doesn't wind up with it, he puts himself further behind than Cyno, who's actually farming. Andy comes a second time. Oh, but he's not going to be able to get the Trickster Spirit. There's the ultimate. Jumped over one chain and Inster.
He knew. That's why he turned around immediately.
Yep.
As soon as that Kama jump, evaded everything. And
hot play from Cyclone.
That's unfortunate, though. It hurts to see in a way. It's not what you expect. I mean, it's a Camazotz with Blink, doesn't have the Purification Beads, isn't level 5 yet. This is the most punishable time period, really, for Cyclone. And the fact that he got away is not going to bode very well for this duo, especially since that was 2 waves now that were triple split in experience, as opposed to Cyclone, who got one for free and only split the other with a roar.
Cyclone, you know, it was interesting. I put a lot of stock into this guy in the Hunter role. Going back to the off-season, we had, Divios testing the waters, looking for the invade here. You know, the enemy blue buff at the very least. And here comes Cyno looking for Andy. Doesn't have the ultimate. And so Andy's just toast. The best finishes things off. That was a hot play coming out from Cyno too. Just complete trust. Hey, Best, you ulting? Got it. Just walks away.
That's a full punish as well for Andy's aggression in duo. And it's not like Anister was grossly misplaying by any means there.
No.
It just Cyno knowing full well that he can probably get away with engaging on Raven, as Divios just going to freely eat up that bird bomb, although I don't believe that Aquarius got the extra damage proc off of the shield.
Yeah, he definitely did enough damage to him beforehand. But yeah, no, I think there's a really valuable point that you brought up there, Taco, is the fact that Andy, it was just fantastic play and communication from Splyce. This time, Andy going to turn things around. He's got help from his support and the mid lane. Chains available, will grab up one, and that brings Cyno right to him. Taunt after the fact, but now Anderson being chased down. Baskin is able to take care of the support. And here comes help. Anister in trouble. Aurora given chase, will be stopped, but the best through the wall! That's gonna be a 1-for-1. Jungle for jungle.
Ooh! Oh, and he gets it. Baskin, no setup needed. Just gonna take down Aurora right on the spot. That's a even trade out. Normally what might have been a net loss overall for Spacestation since they tried to start things off there. But Baskin matching the best with those over-the-wall shots.
Oh, yeah. And Baskin, you know, no surprise at this point. If you've been a faithful follower of the Smite Pro League, no surprise whatsoever. Baskin, we talk a lot about adapting, being the best player in the world. Some other players have come to mind. Baskin has been the most mechanically gifted player, I think.
I'm fully convinced he could play whatever role he wanted to and look as though he's been playing it for years.
That's what's the most impressive point for me, Taco, is that, you know, we see adapting in other players, and that's all well and good. Baskin came into the mid lane role and looked this good day one.
By far probably had the easiest transition, everybody who tried it out, but Answer yet again, the best, and Cyno just all over this Daji. Every time that Palau is down, he's getting hit by the Raven New Wall ultimate combination. And this is exactly where Splyce want to be. They want Cyno and Cyclone Spin to be putting in that damage, and Best just getting cleanup calls all day long.
This is a really good look from Splyce, identifying the Space Station's draft here. Daji doesn't really have an out without the Palau if she's by herself in the jungle. Without that traditional jump, she has to jump to a target. She's kind of lost. Specifically, you notice every time Cyno's engaging in that back right jungle, because there's nothing to jump to. Really intelligent moves from Splyce, because it's not just I'll make this move when the cooldowns are up, it's the location.
This hurts to look at though. Anister, 8.5 minutes and climbing in the match, but he's sitting still at level 6 and been a casualty of pretty much every single one of these small engagements that have occurred. These aren't even the full-blown team fights yet. This is just Andy trying to get something going for his team and being punished when they don't find the kill.
Yeah, Andy is sitting there in the middle of the player damage so far. I thought it might have even been lower, but Don't forget those couple of missed ganks that did cause some damage. Cyclone Spin just up on the front of this tower. No fear in the world. One, because Daji has been culled by Splyce here, and he's got that sustain, that lifesteal. We've seen him dive Barracuda on the tower just for the poke to chase out the Aegis before. So Cyclone's been very comfortable on this Camazotz.
I don't want to say flat out or right out that Splyce wanted Spacestation to pick this Daji so they could have a draft coordinated that would severely abuse it.
I will.
But I'm starting to really believe that was Splyce's intentions from the start, especially throughout the banning phase. I think the Annotator has already shown some strong tendencies for a Daji in the past, and that's what is fun about competitive, is players notice that. And
also Splyce, this roster has really made a name for themselves on counteracting the meta. Divios, the best in Aurora. They used to play on Eager with DJ and Zapman, and that crew was famous for, oh, Khepri is what everybody's playing, where we'll change the meta and beat Khepri. They always figure out, as Sino again finds himself in the enemy jungle, chasing for a little bit, but ultimately going to give it up. They made a name for themselves on beating whatever was popular. Daji's popular right now. And guess what? Splyce has figured out how to beat up the Daji, and they're doing that. It's not a surprise when you think about where these players have come from.
Not to mention that Best just loves Nuwa in general, even outside of a competitive setting. This is one of his go-to picks for that ranked gameplay even. And I know ranked is nothing like competitive in even the slightest sense, but players pick up habits from playing these gods. And that is something that tends to be carried over from time to time, at least in the mechanical part of things. It helps when you just play the god a ton.
I mean, exactly. I mean, like I said on the desk before, Weekend is just playing the spider over and over again, and it gets banned in competitive as well, right? I mean, players have their god pools, and Nuwa has been a part of Best's god pool since before she was famous, pretty much. Answer, what a surprise, getting chased out of his own jungle. This time he does have the ultimate around, doesn't go into it just yet, waits a moment, grabs a roar, and finishes him off. Nice ultimate from Jeff Hinla just for extra security, but that's what's got to happen. Splyce figured out how to beat this pick, and Spacestation have to work around that. This time Andy had the ultimate. Is he going to have the ultimate every time is the question.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Andy start taking this as more of a mind game as opposed to just a raw mechanical skill level aspect, because between Andy and Sino, they both went for the Blink first active. Neither of them are level 12 yet, although Sino's probably going to hit it before Andy just because he's had a little bit more farm than Andy. He's successfully invaded multiple times on the blue buff, and Divios is going to make this probably the third round, I believe, of trying to invade. And this Baskin, who doesn't care at all because he's going to solo the best right underneath his T1 tower, and Sino can't even punish him for it, probably?
Easy. Sino is going to look for the punishment. Aegis is good. Love how Baskin's staying in front of the wall waiting for his dash to come up. Nails it, and he's safely far away. Really interesting spot right there. But Aquarius going to deal with Divios one more time. Divios finds himself in the enemy jungle.
Not this time. And these are the small little ganks where you got to remember who you're playing against if you're Splyce. And I love the confidence that they're trying to continue throughout the match, but know your fights and know when to take them.
Yeah, for sure. Divios has been routinely invading there, but there was the jungle as well. There was 2-on-1. Divios not going to come up good there.
It's just a hard invade to still commit to, though. I'll actually hold that thought. Andy trying to punish Sino for looking at his back harpies. And Sino's going to get away for the moment, but...
Thanks to Aurora.
Exactly, and that's the important thing to keep in mind, is that this is a chase that I don't think Andy's even done with just yet. Aurora's still sticking around, just trying to make sure for extra precaution. Is Barra now gonna look to take out Cyclone, but Cyclone gets the blink off, hovering just long enough. Baskin only needs 2. Baskin only needs 1 more. Defender of Olympus should help secure this, and never mind, it's gonna be the in-hands, in fact, and Anasur getting to force out the ultimate from the Best, but still looking to try and collapse on top of Aurora.
Oh, the taunt's good on the bear. And, well, that's a ton of damage. Aurora is relatively tanky, but Baskin doesn't care. 7 kills for Space Station Gaming, and 5 of them belong to the mid laner from Long Island. Fantastic, fantastic game from Baskin, and what a surprise. You got to be used to it at this point.
You're going to turn into aggro with, I used to be on a team with Chapo.
What do you mean?
Long Island Baskin.
Hey, man, that's where he's from. So is Jeff Hindla.
The most relevant 2 pieces of information right there.
I'm just putting that out there.
Did you ask Hindu to be on this cast for that?
I did not. I didn't want to gamble with that one. Right now, though, 7-4. Space Station Gaming trailing despite Baskin's supremacy. Look at that. 2,000 gold in the lead. And Baskin is just, he's got to be mad. He's like, look, dude, I've soloed my lane opponent. I've found the long range shot. I've got the team fight. I made the rotation. And y'all are going to help me eat the cake, but not help me make, right? 1,900 gold, and everybody's not happy. Baskin's just sitting here like, look, dude, what else? What more do I have to do?
No, Baskin's probably sitting there like, you guys are trolling, and you're all feeders, and I don't understand what you're doing. Barra, can I see some hustle, please?
And Barra's sitting there going, I'm a hunter. It's 14 minutes. I'm irrelevant. It's not something that's going to happen anytime soon. What we've seen again and again and again, and why I think we see Cyclone Spin shifting to this pick, is the hunters have a position, and it's not anywhere early or mid. See a lot of the late game characters coming out in that spot. Divios forces the ultimate out. He'll use his ult, but I think we've established that that dodgy ult is a little bit more important than anything else.
The dodgy ult is definitely important for Anis for survivability.
Oh, he'll buy beads now. Good job.
And that's exactly why I think he backed immediately. Didn't even bother trying to look around to share that next wave that was coming in with Baskin. Would much rather let his mid acquire that solo farm. And for good reason, Baskin's been utilizing it pretty effectively. And
I'd say so.
I think this is one of the first times as well where I've really noticed that Andy hasn't tried to assist the mid lane nearly as much as how he's tried to help his mid laners in the past.
And I think that's simply because he doesn't have to. Baskin can swim by himself. There's no reason to be floaties. So Andy not going to take away from that. I mean, yeah, feed him, right? Pyromancer here, right-hand side. Space Station Gaming have no idea this is going on. Yeah, this is a very small objective, but if it's free, hell, I'll take anything for free.
That ult from Best as well, just to make sure that Space Station weren't setting up in position to possibly collapse on top of Splyce.
And that as the opposition, Space Station Gaming sitting there, the new ult goes off and you go, oh no.
We lost something.
Oh no, where are they? And then you just listen. Which sound will we hear? Okay, it's just the Pyromancer. Thank God. It's not gold or even fire, right? Like, it's the alarm before the alarm. No alarm jokes, Taco.
You said no alarm jokes, so I'm not going with it right
So
now.
you're just not going to say anything?
At least not right now until I see Baskin take out 3/4 of Best health. And Baskin is
nice
gonna
answer
have to
back,
watch
though.
his Jeff. Yeah, Jeff just got destroyed there.
Yeah, and that's the damage that Nuwa brings in this mid to late game. That burst, everybody always talks about the ultimate, but the burst she brings is tough.
It's the shiny metal is nice to have. Anisser, though, poking his head, probably where he shouldn't be. You might be in the wrong neighborhood, but he's going to dash right in. He's got Jeff to back him up.
And there's the ultimate. Aurora's going to be in trouble here. Pulled right onto the powwow, and Baskin shoots it down Broadway, taking care of Aurora. Now it's Sino versus Divios, and Divios going to chase out 1. Divios chasing out 2. Divios chasing out 3. But Sino does lose his fight on the top end as Barracuda makes the best of him. And the best himself is under the tower.
Aquarius, though, just going so deep to keep Bez zoned away from that fight the entire time. Divios trying to get some poke damage where you can find it, but even with Cycle and Spin together, Jeff and Barrow were already too close to their T1 tower. No real room for a commitment, and especially with that new wall ultimate being forced out at a very untimely period, that's also going to further prevent aggression out of Splyce. And Space Station could very realistically here maybe look to try and start pulling away at this gold theory, which is why I think we see Splyce prioritize securing those oracles just in case.
Yeah, got to make sure you've got the vision on that one. We saw Splyce already sneaking objectives, so if that's going to be in their prerogative, you definitely want to make sure that the more important objective is taken care of there. Odin ring one more time to take care of the best. The best ultimate will get out of here, but he just doesn't have it available. 2 players surrounding him. Divios can't really help too much. And that one goes down, and it's stir number 10.
There's no Phantom.
Not yet.
Aurora might not necessarily pick one up, though. I am hoping that he chooses to, but there's a chance he might try to get a little bit greedy with it and look for the shell instead.
Both, you know, interesting because the best does get out of that ring with the ultimate. Gold Fury brought down to about half HP, leashed out, and Space Station's mid laner going to burn all of the damage. Here comes Baskin. He's down relatively low, and the Bat Out of Hell is going to do the damage, but Annister takes care of Sino on the jungle. Robin, Divios takes care of Baskin, but Cyclone Spin is the bad end of a double kill for Andy. Barracuda finishes a roar. There's 2 players left. Make that 1. Annister with the trips, rolling good. 2 black and 1 red. And we're going right to the Gold Fury.
Could only keep him down for so long, and he's back in action already. And what looked like such a promising start for Sino there on the Robin, just 180s in minutes even.
Yep.
At just, I believe it was 8.5 minutes, Andy was sitting at level 6, and now he's all the way up to 16. Which is pretty impressive considering how heavily his jungle was getting pressured out and invaded, how both of his side lanes were getting pressured out, and picks were happening for Splyce. It's just a couple of overextended moments, I think, from Splyce cost them their initial lead, and they're not completely out of this yet by any means.
Sure.
These team fights, though, are progressively deteriorating for Splyce because they seem to be getting more and more broken apart as a team, and they're not really fighting together like they need to be.
What's been bothering me is Sino's complete absence in this mid game. He started off the game relatively strong, in fact, really strong. He was the reason that I think Splyce found themselves with the early lead. Sino's devastation in the jungle. But as the game sort of reached that midpoint, the Robin went quiet.
And that's just, I think it was the pick, the second death for Sino that really set the tone of Annister starting to come back into this one, because Andy's got a little bit of an advantage, I think, with the Athena ultimates and these Defender of Olympuses as well. Every time we see Annister going in, there's Jeff right next to him, and that to me has been the main reason why Sino hasn't been successful in this mid game with trying to rotate around on the Robin.
Space Station going to rotate around on the best. Here comes Sino trying to answer back, but he gets taunted into a ton of damage. And then Baskin again, all the way from downtown, takes care of business. Trapped in the ring is going to be Divios. He'll be able to get on out of there, thanks to the Phantom bought by the support. But Aquarius going to jump forward and start sieging. Aquarius drops the thorns to make sure everybody walks away. And Splyce look like they want to retreat from this tier 2 tower as their health bars find themselves dwindling. And the tower crumbles. Still in the chase. Here comes Space Station.
And Baskin's not done just yet either. That was a really aggressive dash forward there out of the Thoth, but it's a dash he can afford to make. His whole team is standing right behind him, and Aquarius now going to take over the tanking duty of those T2 tower shots, just helping out Jeff a little bit further. Space Station are a bit low here, so expecting them to siege the Pyromancer, back to base, spend all that gold they just built up, and then look for a Fire Giant Siege. But Divios trying to make sure that Jeff doesn't get there to begin with, as the ult is going to come through, but it's blocked by Andy.
It's so easily blocked, and Andy demonstrates why that execute isn't always going to fly. Barracuda gets credit for taking down Big D, and that was one of my big concerns with this Achilles, is that, listen, you can just block it so easily. It doesn't come from the sky like Thanatos, and it's not as quick like Ao Kuang.
You say that now, but man.
Just upsetting.
Achilles, like, it's one of those picks where you want to see it work.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to see what Divios would do with this god. And it felt as though he had a chance, but then the window of opportunity was just immediately closed because of that blue buff invade where Andy rotates in, doesn't die, by the way, and Aquarius helps secure a kill onto Divios, and that really just put a complete halt, I think, to that lead that Divios was starting to build up.
I still think there's some potential here, but I mean, Achilles for me has been a character that I think will do well outside of competitive. I think it'll do well on the right side. Yeah, I think it'll do well on the right side, but I think Achilles is a minor league pick. Does that make sense? It's good, but I think when you have the top level and you're able to do things like body block the execute, it becomes an issue. Splyce trying to force the issue on the right-hand side. Shouts to Toli as Space Station defends up against it. Annister goes up on the pole, grabs one, and that's going to be the end. Sino isn't even pulled. Baskin's a machine. Number 8. Oh, Maron. What a crazy man in the mid lane. And Splyce on their back foot. Divios low. Cyclone's been taunted. Space Station Gaming still jumping in. Aquarius and Andy leading the charge. The best is going to take care of Andy. But after his Aegis is done, here comes Baskin. Love potion number 9.
Baskin missed something. He's human after all.
I saw her kill. That's all I saw, Taco.
It's just incredible to me what he's been able to accomplish on this Thoth, and very wholeheartedly believe that if it wasn't for Baskin soloing best underneath the tower, he probably doesn't get to pull away as heavily as he did. But that, for me, was the jump start that Space Station needed to really get their heads back into the game.
I mean, he got soloed like Pon Pon. What else are you going to say? Divios here, half HP. Well, that's not quite soloed. That's an entire team jumping on one poor dude. Baby Rage goes down for Splyce.
I think we both know Baskin well enough to know for a fact he considers that a solo kill.
Oh, absolutely. Baskin considers all these kills solo kills.
I want to touch back, though, on the Achilles pick and the whole minor league talk. Before, you were so rudely interrupted there by a team fight.
How dare they try to win the game?
Come on, guys. Like, just take a second so we can break something down fully. But in all seriousness, though, Achilles really does have that heavy pub stompy SML kind of vibe. And I don't say that as a slight towards the minor league players. I don't think he meant it as a slight either towards them. It's just things tend to be a little bit more chaotic. Sure, they're a tier above the ranked grind, but they're not necessarily at that pro grind either. And it's a very suiting fit towards the chaos. It brings a little bit of beauty to the chaos.
Exactly.
You can have that execution factor, and you can have this all-in potential. But I also firmly believe that Achilles should be a pick that's looked at in the jungle role over anywhere else. He doesn't really seem to provide much else outside of damage, and that's his sole purpose of existing, is just to kill everybody and say that he's the best.
With that said, we've seen a ton of Camazotz solo, which brings nothing but damage, right? So,
but he does have peel. I think that Camazotz has a little bit more peel than what I would ever attest to.
Like self-peel with the ultimate, I guess?
Self-peel and also just like general team peel. That's slow on the vampiric bats, especially since a lot of Camazotzes tend to have, you know, the shield, the glass shield as well is a really important item. And it's the general cooldown reduction as well. But for Achilles here, Divios does have a little bit of that. He's building into what might be a Discord. Speaking of which, he's going to blink right into everybody in Space Station.
Take a ton of damage. Baskin cancels the ultimate this time. Aquarius going to back on out of there. Baskin has been such a terror that he's forced Cyclone Spin into magical damage himself. And I don't mean a little bit of magical damage. I mean, this is a Talisman of Energy. It's a full commit. It's like full HP, full defensive item. Does give him some attack speed and speed when they siege and stuff, but realistically, this is about, I don't want to get Baskined real quick. Double taunt into the big Goomba stomp from the Odin, and just like that, Divios is mincemeat. Anderson with the last hit. Baskin being the target as he should be, but nice peel as he dashes away.
But just look who's with him the whole way through. It's Jeff Hinla providing the support that his mid laner needs. Bear going to come charging in now, trying to remind everybody, hey guys, ADCs are still awesome too, as he's going to get, Anderson going to take the last hit on that one. But still, 4 members dead already out of Splyce, and Aurora about to follow suit.
And that's a deicide. Taco, that's a game win. Easy peasy. Sorry, folks. That's just routine for Space Station at this point. I don't really think there's another way to paint this picture. Space Station Gaming coming out and just going to work. This looked like Space Station clocking in and clocking out, just saying, look, we know how to handle stuff, and we're just going to win game 1.
That's just also kind of a feels bad for Splyce overall, because I don't think that there were any grotesque misplays from them. I think just 1 or 2 instances where they overstayed their welcome, and that's all that Space Station needed. Just that one simple mistake. And I think that's also one of the reasons why it's very easy to refer to Space Station as a top-tier team in NA right now.
Absolutely. Well, in Mixer chat, let us know who's going to be the Baskin of this game. I mean the MVP of this game. And we'll kind of go over it on the desk. I don't even know why we do these polls. Desk, who's the MVP?
Baskin. It's Baskin. Got it. Yes, I was right.
John Finch here. I have Ryan Bailey with me. Ryan interrupting Bailey. Not aggro anymore. That was game one. The Space Station, they looked very strong in that game. And we do want to know who you think is going to be the MVP. Here's some of those stats. Just in case you don't believe me, look at those numbers. Hard to doubt that Space Station are the ones that came out on top.
Yeah, Splyce, I mean, as Taco said, didn't feel like one fatal mistake or one, egregious error. Just Space Station consistently started beating them in team fights. I mean, there's the one moment where Sino gets picked off in mid lane and Space Station's able to get a lot off the back of that one pick. But at the end of the day, I mean, Space Station just outplayed their opposition. They had more pressure in more lanes and just got more objectives and hit more stuff. And when you check all those boxes, you're going to come out the winner every time.
Yeah, and their composition was built to make that happen. I mean, yes, Baskin looked great on that mid lane Thoth, but I mean, he had Jeff there with him, not only peeling, but setting everything up at those Athena taunts, kind of like we said. Had Andy in the jungle on that Donji, burning relics and purification beads. So looked as good as well there, too. But, chat, you weren't going to be swayed, were you? You knew who the MVP was here in your hearts.
Baskin.
You knew that it
Baskin?
was quiet there. Please. It was Baskin. Is who it was, yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah, well.
All along.
It was Baskin. And he did look great. I see why you all felt that way. 8-1 and 7. I believe he led the player damage charts. As long as I was looking at them, he was up there at the top of those two. Just looked great. Even found that early game kill over the wall without any vision with that final judgment, too. He just looked excellent.
Man, it's hard to believe if you watch all of Baskin's old games and you would have told me in Season 3 that, man, Season 5, Baskin's going to be even better. And then again, in Season 4, next year, dude's going to be even better than he is right now. I would have said no way that he's going to be significantly better than he was in previous years, but it really feels like he's playing at an all-time level. He just seems dominant every single time he steps on the map. Like, I mean, this is just all Baskin. Yep, all Baskin. No one else was even in that clip in a Space Station jersey. That was all him.
And that's what we were saying. I mean, he had tons of setup from Jeff Himla this game as well. But what do you mean? He was zoning him towards the defender, towards the in-hand. Yeah,
well, yeah. And classic Baskin actually makes sure that he gets that last hit instead of letting Jeff get one for him.
That was perfect. You saw it. Camazotz was trying to get away, and he said, no, you can't go that way or that way. Stay right here in the middle where I want you.
Oh, perfect.
It was perfect.
200 IQ.
Yep.
Easy.
Easy.